Grandma begged, "I can't take it anymore. But what Grandpa threatens will shock you." Ella sat in the dim light of their modest living room, shadows creeping around her like unwanted memories. Tension hung heavy in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Walter, her husband, had once been her beacon in the fog, but now his love felt like chains, binding her to a life that left her gasping for air. The clock ticked loudly, each second an echo of her aching heart. When she whispered, "I can't take it anymore," the words trembled through her body. The unsettling silence that followed was deafening. Walter turned, his gaze sharp, filled with an unsettling calm. What was once affection was now a chilling weight pressing down on her soul. "Do you know what happens when secrets are spilled, Ella?" he asked, his voice low, dripping with malice. The threat hung in the room, palpable and cold. She could feel her skin prickle, anxiety coursing through her veins. Walter had a way of weaving their lives into a tapestry of darkness, cloaked in unspoken threats that made her doubt her own sanity. "Nothing was supposed to get out," he continued, studying her closely. "You don't want to be the one to unravel everything, do you?" His words slithered around her thoughts, tightening like a noose. Memories of family gatherings flooded her mind. The hushed whispers behind closed doors, the nervous laughter that followed a too long pause. They all knew something was amiss, but no one dared to speak out. "Walter, I'm afraid." She took a breath, grounding herself while shaking hands clenched tightly in her lap. "You're scaring me." Ella's heart raced. She felt trapped, caught in a web of fear and manipulation she hadn't even noticed she was tangled in. Walter's eyes glinted, a storm brewing behind them. "You should be," he warned, a lurking danger simmering beneath his calm facade. "You don't understand the legacy you're meddling with." As he spoke, shadows flitted through the corners of her vision, and a sense of dread gripped her heart. What legacy? What had she missed? Ella's thoughts churned like a brewing tempest, a storm of confusion and fear, crashing into her realization of their family's dark history. Was she the next target? The walls around her felt like they were closing in, each tick of the clock amplifying her anxiety. She could hear whispers in her mind, the stories her grandmother had told, clouds of warnings and suspicions swirling in the recesses of her memory. "There's one thing I've learned, Ella," Walter said, leaning closer, his breath a dark whisper against her ear. "You need to be careful who you provoke. They don't take kindly to traitors." An icy shiver ran down her spine, leaving her trembling. The truth knotted in her stomach, an unspooling thread of secrets. It dawned on her that she was standing on the brink of chaos, every heartbeat echoing the unsaid words that could change everything. She was left with a haunting choice: stay silent and continue to live in dread, or break free from the shackles of his control. Would she have the courage to confront Walter? Or would she succumb to the web he had spun around her? The air hung heavy, pregnant with uncertainty, and every second felt like a countdown to an explosive end. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning." Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The air vibrated with the tension, charged like a live wire. Ella felt trapped in a whirlwind of dread, her breaths shallow and jagged. Walter's words echoed, and her heart raced. You don't want to be the one to unravel everything, do you? What did he mean? She needed clarity more than ever. Walter, please. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it felt like a scream inside her. What are you hiding? His eyes narrowed, dark pools swirling, with anger and fear. A glance that made her skin crawl. Just then, a loud bang echoed from the kitchen. It was a sound that sliced through the tension, jolting Ella from her spiraling thoughts. They both froze, the air thick with uncertainty. She instinctively looked towards the door that connected the living room and the quiet refuge of their kitchen. Stay here, Walter demanded, though fear flickered across his features. But her pulse quickened. She wasn't going to hide. Not anymore. What was that? She asked, her voice rising in pitched urgency. Walter stood rigid, his face a mask of fury and concern. But he didn't answer. Instead, he turned, gripping the edge of the couch, knuckles whitening. She watched him, confusion swirling in. Her mind like rain on a turbulent sea. Who was this man? The shadows had always loomed large in their lives, but now they felt darker than ever. Ella! His voice was sharp, harsher than she'd ever heard it. We need to focus. Before she could respond, the sound came again. It resonated through the house, followed by a thud, then silence. Her heart raced. What's going on? Is someone in the house? He didn't move. The air was thick with dread, the room closing in on her. Summoning her courage, she pushed past him toward the kitchen. She needed to know, needed to confront whatever darkness loomed. One step at a time, she traversed the well-worn path, each footfall echoing louder in her ears. And then she crossed the threshold. What she found froze her in place. The kitchen was awash in a strange light, pale and flickering. On the floor lay a broken chair and a table overturned, as though a struggle had occurred. But that wasn't what made her breath hitch. No, it was the figure huddled in the corner, shadowed but unmistakably familiar. Mom? Ella's voice shook. Her mother, the woman she thought was long gone, sat there, eyes wide, tears streaking down her face. Ella! Her mother's voice cracked, trembling with urgency and fear. You need to leave. Now! Walter's face drained of color. What is she doing here? He asked, his voice laced with disbelief and something else. Anger? Desperation? Ella turned back to him. Confusion. Warring with fear. What do you mean? You said she died. No, her mother shouted, her breath ragged. You have to listen. The truth is more dangerous than you know. Ella's heart pounded against her ribs, and the world spun as revelations clawed their way to the surface. What truth? She gasped. What terrible history had been buried? Walter stepped forward, his expression shifting from shock to resolve. You can't believe her, Ella. No! Ella yelled, the weight of her unfurling reality crashing down around her. You've lied to me, both of you! In a flash, everything twisted. Secrets unraveled faster than she could process. Choices had never been hers to make. The familiar warmth of love felt completely hollow now. A facade hiding something monstrous. Ella, don't listen. Walter's voice sliced through the chaos, frantic and desperate. But the words fell flat, echoing hollowly in her ears as she stared at the two people who had always anchored her life. Was Walter truly the monster? Or was it her mother who brought this chaos? As her heart raced, one undeniable truth coiled in her chest. She was standing at the edge of a dark abyss, and every step forward would plunge her deeper into the unknown. What were the secrets they had hidden? And who was really the puppet master? The shadows pulsed around her, whispering sinister implications as she stood poised on the brink of revelation. Ella's heart thundered in her chest, each beat drowning out the quiet chaos around her. What truth? She gasped, turning to her mother, desperate for answers. But just then, a loud crash reverberated through the house, shaking the very walls. The sound came from the back door, heavy and demanding. In that instant, the air shifted, prickling with electricity. Walter's eyes widened in alarm, his earlier bravado melting away. "Stay back!" he yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Ella felt a wave of confusion and fear wrap around her like a cold blanket. As she backed away, her mother's pleading gaze pierced through the tension. "Ella, listen to me. Walter isn't who you think he is." Her words dripped like poison, each syllable wrapping around her heart like a vice. "What are you saying?" Ella's voice wavered, adrenaline coursing through her veins just as the terrifying noise surged again, a hammering, relentless, like something trying to break in. "I was protecting you," Walter snarled, stepping in front of Ella. His face contorted in rage. The man she thought she knew, now a stranger. "She's manipulative. You can't trust her." But before Walter could move, the door burst open. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the dim light. Ella squinted, shocked as the shape stepped into view, clutching something dark and heavy. "Dad?" Ella's breath hitched in disbelief. Her father, the man she had mourned, stood before her, alive and breathing. His eyes were wild, filled with terror and urgency. "Ella, we need to leave now," he shouted, a frantic desperation in his tone. "There's no time." Her heart twisted and turned. How you were gone?" Confusion mixed with joy, creating a tempest inside her. Was this even real? "Not now!" he snapped, glance darting to Walter, who had paled and shifted uneasily. "I need you to trust me." Suddenly, everything crashed down. Walter lunged toward her father. "Get away from her!" he shouted, anger bubbling over. In that heartbeat, a blinding flash erupted from the hallway. A spark, a tiny flame flaring up like a signal. Ella's breath caught in her throat. "Stop!" she screamed, but the chaos exploded just as quickly. The room ignited around them, flames licking hungrily at the walls. Creeping closer, a hungry beast awakened. "Mom!" Ella turned, her gaze darting back to her mother. The woman's face was twisted in fear, but her eyes glinted with something more, something sinister. "You knew about this!" "Yes," her mother spat back, fire reflecting in her eyes. "I did. But there are things you don't understand, things you aren't ready to bear." Ella's mind reeled, connections forming and unraveling like threads in a fraying tapestry. Walter had lied. Her mother had kept secrets. The man she loved and the parents she mourned were tangled in a web of deceit. Trust was crumbling underfoot. "Ella, we need to go! Now!" her father shouted again, his grip tightening around her arm. The flames danced closer, shadows flickering wildly in the heat. A cacophony of unbearable emotion washed over her. Confusion, anger, fear. It was all too much. She felt pinned between a father she believed was dead, a mother filled with lies, and a husband who might be a monster. "Mom, what's going on?" But then, to Ella's shock, a flicker of understanding crossed her mother's face. "You're the key, Ella," she said breathlessly. "You were always meant to know the truth." "Get away from her!" Walter shouted again, his voice rising with desperation. The flames grew, spiraling as fear surged. Time froze around Ella as her next choice loomed like a dark silhouette. Follow her father into the unknown, or face the truth with her mother and Walter. In that moment, she felt the world tilt beneath her. What was the truth? And what horrible legacy was she about to unearth? The flames were rising, and so were her questions. The lines were blurred, reality shifted, trust shattered like glass, and Ella stood on the precipice of something unimaginable. What would she choose? Ella stood there, frozen in a whirlwind of chaos. The flames crackled and popped, their warmth a stark contrast to the icy terror gripping her heart. Her mind raced between her mother, her father, alive, her husband, Walter, an unknown threat. Reality twisted, trust hung by a thread. "Dad!" "Why are you here?" she whispered, breathless, but he didn't answer. "Ella!" Walter shouted, his voice cracking like thunder. "You have to choose, me or him!" The ultimatum hit hard, a punch to her gut. She clutched the counter, digging her nails into the wood, trying to steady herself. But the ground beneath her felt like quicksand. Everything was unraveling. "Ella, we can't waste time!" her father insisted, pulling at her arm urgently. "Choose? Choose what?" She shook her head, heat from the fire licking at her heels. "What's going on?" The words tumbled out like stones, heavy and desperate. In that moment, a voice cut through the clamor. "Ella!" It was her mother again. "Listen to me!" But the intensity in the room surged. Shadows danced around them. "You two have kept secrets from me. What else have you hidden?" "Secrets?" Walter laughed, but it was a hollow sound, haunted. "I have kept you safe. You think he's telling the truth?" She didn't know who to believe. Confusion spiraled, tangled with fear. As the flames roared, her thoughts pulled like a taut string. What truth? Just then, something shifted in her mother's expression. It flickered for just a second, like the light before a storm. "Ella, you were never meant to find out this way, but I've done something terrible." "What do you mean?" "Your father. He's not who you think he is." Her mother's voice trembled, deeper emotions surfacing. "I'm not following." But before she could finish, a loud crack echoed from the ceiling. A large wooden beam fell, shattering the tension like glass. Everyone ducked as it crashed to the ground, spitting up a cloud of dust. "Now!" her father screamed, and without thinking, Ella turned, ready to flee. But Walter lunged, grabbing her wrist. "You can't trust him!" "Let go!" she shouted, yanking her arm free. The shock of his grip lingered, leaving behind a faint burn. "Doesn't it make sense now?" her mother cried out, eyes wild. "Remember the stories? The bloodlines? The powers?" "Bloodlines? Powers?" Tall and regal, her face cloaked in mystery. She flicked her wrist, and the flames momentarily dimmed, revealing a depth of darkness behind her. Good to see you again, my dear, she said smoothly, eyes sparkling with mischief. You finally come home. Home? Confusion spiraled again. Who are you? I'm your true lineage, Ella. Panic surged. Everything she thought she knew was crumbling. What do you mean? Your powers are awakening, child. You are not just a simple girl. The woman's voice dripped with an unsettling sweetness. You're destined for so much more. As her world surfaced, images of darkness and strength, whispers of power. The woman stepped closer, a knowing smile on her lips. Come with me and you'll understand. Ella's heart raced, torn between the flames and the tantalizing promise of knowledge. Who was she really? The walls of her identity threatened to collapse, and all she could hear was the rush of blood in her ears, drowning out everything else. Then she noticed Walter's face. Utter disbelief, horror, and something else. Fear? What was she about to uncover? And what could it mean for them all? The air grew thick as tension coiled around them like a serpent. Ella stood at the crossroads of truth and illusion, unable to see the path ahead. What would she choose? Ella felt her heart race, every beat echoing the chaos surrounding her. The flames flickered closer, shadows draping ominously over Walter, her father, and the mysterious woman. They loomed before her, their faces twisted with fear, urgency, and desperation. Ella, come with me now! Her father's voice sliced through her confusion, desperate and commanding. But then her mother's voice rang out, sharp and high, filled with a pleading urgency. She's not safe with him. Walter is dangerous. Ella's mind swirled. Who was she supposed to trust? Her heart felt like it was caught in a vice. She turned back to her father, his dark features lined with something unsettling. Was that terror? And yet nothing prepared her for the moment that followed. With a sudden, jarring motion, the strange woman took a step forward, her eyes glinting with something darker. You don't truly understand, do you? She said, her voice sweet like honey, but laden with venom. You all think you're the players in this game, but it's much more complex. In an instant, she raised her hand, and the flames responded, swirling up towards the ceiling like a cyclone. Ella gasped, blinking against the light that bathed the room in an ethereal glow. It felt like the very air crackled with energy, hot and thick. And that's when it happened. The kitchen wall shifted, warped like a canvas under heat, revealing something behind it, a door. Not just any door, a heavy, ornate entrance, ancient and grand, framing a figure half hidden in shadow. Wait! Ella shouted, taking a step back as panic clawed at her throat. The figure stepped forward, and her breath caught. It was another woman, older, with a soft yet piercing gaze. Her hair glimmered like silver in the flickering light. Ella's mouth went dry. There was an undeniable resemblance. "Grandma?" Ella whispered, disbelief mingling with a longing she hadn't allowed herself to feel. But something was off. The woman's eyes were filled with a depth of sorrow that felt suffocating. "It's time, Ella," she said calmly, as if welcoming her home. But the underlying tension was palpable. Your legacy isn't just a tale, it's your reality. Ella staggered back, grappling with everything crashing around her. Her heart raced. What do you mean? Your father is part of it, Grandma continued, voice steady. And so is Walter. What? Ella's head spun. You knew about this? Mom, what does she mean? But Grandma silenced all of them with a lifted hand. There's no time to explain. Trust what you feel. The powers are awakening. Powers? Walter scoffed, stepping forward. What powers? You're scaring her. How can you still deny it? Grandma shot back, a sudden heat igniting in her words. It's not just bloodlines. They've cursed us. Cursed? Ella echoed, heart fluttering wildly. This was too much, too fast. Confusion turned to a cold wave of fear that hushed the flames for a heartbeat. But just as everything hung in delicate balance, the energy in the room shifted. The woman, dark and dangerous, smirked and raised her arm again, almost teasingly. You still don't see. You're standing in a crossroads, Ella. Choose wisely. Without warning, the room shuddered. A shockwave of energy pulsed through them, hurling her backwards, against the counter. Everything blurred, lights flickering and shapes weaving into obscurity. In the chaos, she caught a glimpse of Walter's face, twisted and shocked, not with fear, but with recognition. And her mother's expression morphed into something else. Something darker and cruel. Where are you going? Her mother snarled, voice laced with fury that echoed in the depths of the flames. And then, in one horrifying moment, everything clicked. With a gasp, realization struck Ella, a truth piercing through her like a dagger. No one was who they seemed. In that heartbeat, she felt it, a pulse deep within her awakening. It came like a sense of belonging wrapped in dread. Caught in an epicenter of deception, she realized a staggering truth. The family she thought she understood had been playing a game beyond anything she could comprehend. Before she could ponder it any further, a blinding light burst from the ornate door, swallowing the room in brilliance. Ella shielded her eyes, heart racing, pulse quickening. What was behind the door? Would she run, or dare to see what truth lay waiting on the other side? Would she embrace the legacy whispered in shadows, or fight against it? That choice loomed like a dark specter, and the flames continued to rise, hungry for the choices still to be made. Ella shielded her eyes as the blinding light engulfed the room. Every shadow seemed to recoil, flickering and swirling in a chaotic dance. Her heart raced, a drumbeat of confusion thrumming against her ribs. Grandma's familiar face loomed closer, but the fear in her chest churned with disbelief. What truth lay behind that door? Ella, we don't have much time, her father urged again, his voice cutting through the chaotic heat. You need to go. Go where? She shouted, the desperation rising in her throat. What's really happening? Then the strange woman's laughter echoed, dark, mocking. You're so naive, she said, stepping closer, her presence pulsing with energy. Did you think you could hide from your destiny? Destiny, Ella shot back, a lump rising in her. This isn't destiny. It's a nightmare. But the woman simply smiled, a glint of triumph in her eyes. Everything you've known is about to change, sweet girl. You are the key to it all. Suddenly, a crash outside interrupted the tense standoff. The door burst open again, and another figure emerged, damaged and stumbling. It was a teenage boy, wild-eyed and gasping for breath. For a heartbeat, time froze. Ella! He cried, his voice raw and urgent. You have to come with me. They're coming. What? Who? Ella felt the world tilt, her mind racing as she tried to grapple with the new threat. The boy was a stranger, but there was a spark of recognition in his gaze. "Please, there's no time to explain. I know about you, about where you came from," he shouted, urgency flourishing in his tone. "What do you mean?" Ella's pulse quickened. Was this another trick? But the edge in his eyes told a different story. "Just listen," he insisted, stepping into the room where surreal flames flickered. "They're after you. We need to go, now." Walter moved, eyes dark with anger. "No one is going anywhere." He lunged towards the boy, but Ella felt something shift within her. "No!" she yelled. Standing in front of the boy, her body tense like a wire, ready to snap. "If anyone is going, it's me." "Who are you?" The boy's gaze flickered, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "I'm Alex. I was sent to find." You're powerful, Ella. They want to control you." "Control me?" The revelation hit like a thunderclap. "Who wants to control me?" "The Order," he gasped. "You're a part of something bigger than you know. And they're not just after you. They're after all of us." Walter scoffed, a sneer forming on his lips. "These lies won't fool her. You're just trying to manipulate her." But Ella's thoughts spun, a whirlwind of betrayal and adrenaline. Everything she thought she knew was being flipped upside down. Her mother was hiding something. Walter's roots twisted into darkness. And now this boy was claiming she was involved in something epic. Suddenly, the air thickened. The woman's laugh echoed around them. "You can't escape your legacy, Ella. The more you fight it, the worse it will be for everyone. You think you can run from what you are? A legacy?" Ella whispered, heart racing. "What does that mean?" "The truth is, you are not just one of us. You are tied to the heart of our family's secret," the woman declared, her voice rising with power. And just then, everything shifted. A deafening crack rang through the house like an explosion, startling everyone to silence. The ceiling began to crumble, dust and debris raining down. "Get down!" her father shouted. But before they could react, a large section of the wall exploded inward, revealing a hidden cavity behind it. In a blinding flash, an ancient symbol shimmered into view, glowing ominously as if it had been awakened. Ella stepped closer, eyes wide. What is that?" she gasped, a pull urging her forward. "It's your truth, Ella," Alex said, his voice steady against the chaos. "Your legacy isn't just bloodline, it's power." Before she could unpack the weight of those words, a pulse of energy rippled through the ground, knocking everyone backward. The ancient sigil pulsed with life, casting shadows that twisted and morphed into frightening shapes around them. "Ella," Walter shouted, fear now flickering in his eyes. "Stay back! Don't touch it!" But Ella felt a surge within her, an undeniable pull toward the light. She took a step forward, knowing, feeling deep in her bones, that this would change everything. And as she did, in blinding light, her heart thundered as she crossed that boundary into the unknown, fighting against the fear gripping her heart. In that moment, the room shattered, a crackling energy swirling in a storm of colors. Everyone erupted through the door into darkness, and a single question hung in the air, trembling with uncertainty. Would they be trapped in this chaos forever? Or would the truth finally set them free? The light swallowed Ella whole, and for a heartbeat, she felt weightless, suspended in nothingness. Then, reality crashed back, like a wave, pulling her under. She stumbled forward, landing hard on cool, damp stone. Gritty dust filled her lungs, her heart racing. "Ella!" Alex shouted, his voice slicing through the haze. The room flickered back, into view an ancient chamber filled with twisted roots and flickering shadows. But everything felt different now, charged. "Where are we?" she gasped, scrambling to her feet. "What just happened?" "Not too far fra the truth," Alex replied, his eyes darting to the others behind her. "Just hold on tight." Before Ella could register what he meant, the chamber wrenched back to life, shadows swirling. The air thickened, weaving with whispers that sent shivers crawling up her spine. And that's when she looked back. Walter stepped through the threshold, his face twisted in an expression she had never seen before. Pure rage. "You don't get to run, Ella," he bellowed. His voice echoed off the ancient walls, vibrating with malice. But just then, the overwhelming energy in. The room shifted. The ghostly figure, the woman, suddenly appeared in front of them, a whirlwind of shadows and light. "Stop him," she shouted, her voice sharp. In that instant, Ella felt it, like a current surging through her veins, urging her to act. Without thinking, she reached out toward Walter. "What's your game, Walter?" He recoiled, eyes wide. "You don't understand. It's not what you think." But the words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. "Spare me your lies," Ella yelled, heart pounding. "You've hidden everything. What else do you want?" Then it happened. A blinding flash erupted from her hand, an instinct she never knew she had ignited. The energy exploded, and it surged forward, enveloping Walter like a tempest. He screamed, a sound that pierced through the tension. The shadows convulsed, swirling erratically. But in that chaos, something deeper surfaced. Memories flashed across Ella's mind, vivid and raw. She saw glimpses of a life she didn't recognize. And then, everything fell silent. Walter gasped, eyes narrowing as he began to tremble. "You should have kept it buried." "What are you talking about?" Ella demanded, feeling an unfamiliar strength pulsing within her. The light flared, illuminating more than just the chamber. It unveiled the truth. A sudden explosion reverberated through the chamber. A hidden door revealed itself, swinging open to expose a world beyond. Cloaked in mist and shadows, figures emerged, cloaked in despair and anger, their faces twisted with awareness. "Ella!" her mother's voice cut through the fray. "You need to understand." Understand what? She felt like the ground was ripping apart beneath her. The fear was visceral, heavy against her chest, and she could barely breathe. Then, the unexpected happened. Walter's face twisted into a mask of horror, fear suddenly shifting. "No, no, no, you can't!" In a split second, he bolted toward the newly opened doorway. But before he could escape, a force lashed out from memories poured in like dark ink. Heart racing, she looked back at her mother. "What have you kept from me?" And then she saw it. Walter's eyes widened, realization hitting him. "The truth will shatter you!" he shrieked, anguish creeping into his voice. Suddenly, the shadows gathered in horrifying clarity. Faces emerged among the shadows, family members she thought she'd lost. Figures from her nightmares, all tied to a history darker than she could have imagined. "Please don't," her mother pleaded, stepping forward, desperation bleeding from her voice. "You don't understand the full legacy." And that's when it struck her, crashing like a wave. "No, it can't be," she gasped. running through the fragments of memory swirling in her mind, pieces clicking into place. You're all involved in this, aren't you? The room shuddered. In a heartbeat, everything shifted again. The chamber darkened, shadows closing in. Fear coursed through her veins. What had she stumbled upon? Suddenly, the figures behind her, shrouded in mystery and terror, all turned their gaze toward her. "You are the key," they whispered in unison, lips twisting into cruel smiles. The darkness thickened, and Ella felt the ground slipping away. Confusion and betrayal washed over her, leaving her gasping. "I don't want any of this." But as the dust settled and the truth loomed, she understood the enormity of her choice. The foundation of her life was crumbling. Who truly held the power, and what would it mean for her future? The weight of betrayal weighed heavy, and she shivered. What kind of legacy awaited her beyond that door? Would she embrace it, or shatter under its weight? The answers spiraled around her like whispers in the dark, leaving only questions trembling on the edge of an abyss. Ella stood there, heart hammering against her ribs, the weight of truth pressing like a leaden shroud around her. Everything twisted in a swirl of disbelief. Walter, her husband, whom she thought she knew, stood in the shadows of guilt. Her parents, cloaked in lies, and that ancient symbol pulsating in front of her hinted at a legacy she had barely scratched the surface of. The shadows gathered closer, their forms twisting, whispering secrets in a language she couldn't understand. "You are the key," they murmured. "Your power will change everything." Ella swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" But suddenly, the room trembled. A crack split the walls, sending chunks of stone tumbling. As dust swirled in the air, panic surged. "Get out! Everyone, now!" Alex shouted. But as they moved, the shadows surged like a dark tide. They twisted, drawing nearer, and Ella felt something deep within her awaken, a force she couldn't contain. "Ella!" Walter yelled, his face twisted in a mix of rage and something else, a flicker of desperation. "Don't you dare step closer!" But the compulsion to push forward was too much. She reached for the glowing symbol, feeling warmth pulse beneath her fingertips. She heard a gasp behind her. Then a blast of energy erupted, engulfing her in radiance. A surge of memories flooded her mind. Laughter at family gatherings, whispers of dark secrets, and at the center, a haunting laughter that felt chillingly familiar. Then something shattered. The world around her broke apart like glass. "Ella, no!" she heard Alex scream as she felt herself being pulled into the light. And just like that, she landed somewhere new. The chamber was gone. She stumbled onto a cobbled street. The air thick with smoke and something else, a sweet, sickly scent that made her head spin. Shouting echoed around her. People ran past, faces streaked with fear, shadows flickering in their eyes. She turned, searching for Alex, searching for Walter, searching for any sense of safety. But then, from the chaos, a figure stepped forward, breathless and wild-eyed. "Ella, thank God I found you." It was her brother, Jamie, the one she thought had disappeared years ago, the one everyone assumed was dead. "Jamie? But how?" Ella's heart lurched. "You shouldn't be here. I had to come. They've been looking for you. We have to move." He grabbed her wrist tightly, pulling her into the fray. They can't know you've awakened. The realization hit Ella like a punch to the gut. You knew? You knew about everything? Not everything, Jamie shouted, urgency flooding his voice. But there are things in motion, dark plans that involve you, me, and... Before he could finish, the ground trembled again. A low growl rumbled beneath them, and something massive erupted from the shadows. A creature, a beast intertwined with shadows, eyes glowing like hot coals. Ella stumbled back, terror chilling her bones. What is that? The Guardians, Jamie said breathlessly. They're here for you. What do you mean? But as the beast lunged, a flicker of recognition passed through her. Memories of stories, of warnings. It's all connected, she gasped, realization crashing over her. Get back, Jamie shouted, his face pale. Run! The creature roared, and in that cacophony, Ella finally understood where the true danger lay. Not just in the beast, but in what she was meant to become. Ella! Walter's voice rang out, but it came from behind Jamie, sharp and commanding. Stay with me! Ella's heart shattered. How could she choose? She didn't want to be the key to anything. She just wanted her life back. The beast lunged again, jaws snapping, a painful reminder of the past. Finally, in a split second, Ella made a choice. She stepped toward Jamie, leaving Walter behind. But everything froze the moment she felt a hand gripping her shoulder. A memory, a dark secret she never knew existed, lurking just beyond reach. Ella didn't gasp or scream. Instead, she felt a deep, gnawing horror. The walls of her world began to crumble, and the shadows whispered promises she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. Who am I really? She muttered, staring into the abyss that surrounded her. And with that question hanging heavy in the air, everything spun into darkness. The air grew thick with tension, the shadows closing in like a trap. Ella stood at the edge of a precipice, her heart thrumming in her chest. Darkness swirled around her, but deep within, a flicker of light pulsed. She felt it, the warmth rising like a tide. Who am I really? She whispered. The weight of her question hanging heavy in the air, but before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them shook violently. The walls trembled, and dust rained down, choking her throat. And then, just as suddenly as it began, silence enveloped the chamber. A stillness that felt like a breath held too long. Ella turned to Jamie, his face etched in uncertainty. What just happened? She managed to ask, but fear gnawed at her insides. That thing, it can sense your energy. We need to move, now! Jamie tugged at her arm, urgency coloring his voice, but she was rooted in place, her heart pounding. Ella, you don't understand! Walter stepped up, desperation lacing his words. Am after you. Their power wants you. Don't. Let them have you. What do you mean their power? Who are they? Ella shouted, confusion twisting in her gut. Before Walter could respond, a sound echoed from the shadows, scratchy and low. A figure stepped forward, cloaked in darkness. Ella instantly recognized that voice, a chill racing down her spine. Mama? No, it couldn't be. Her mother stood partially hidden, her eyes flaring with raw intensity. Ella, listen! Her voice trembled, but held an authority that demanded attention. You were never meant to find out like this. What? Ella felt the walls closing in, confusion weaving through her mind. What are you saying? I've kept so many secrets to protect you. Her mother's voice faded, thick with emotion. The order. Yes, they're hunting you. But there are bigger forces at play. You are connected to something ancient. And then, from behind her, that chilling laughter echoed again. The mysterious woman stepped into view, smirk plastered across her face. Oh dear, I thought we'd move past the sentimental approach. Why are you doing this? Ella felt the ground beneath her shake again. Not from fear, but from a deep, simmering rage. What do you want from me? The woman's lips curled into a smile, but it held no warmth. Your awakening will ignite everything. You were never just a girl, Ella. You were always meant to unlock this. I don't want this, Ella screamed, fury and fear tightening her chest. But as she said those words, everything shifted. A jagged light surged from the symbol in the wall, rising up to envelop her. Suddenly, she glimpsed something, an image so clear it knocked the wind out of her. It was a young girl, eyes bright with fire. It was her, but older, stronger. Ella felt a connection, a bond that sunk deep, intertwining with her very soul. Ella, you have to fight! Jamie yelled, but his voice was muffled, fading as the light consumed her. She felt pulled into an abyss, swallowed by the power awakening within her. And then, with a snap, the image changed, revealing a truth that hit like ice. No! Ella gasped, recoiling, understanding crashing over her. The cloaked figure chuckled darkly, wielding the knowledge like a weapon. Yes, my dear, you are not just a Kiwi. You are the fabled heir, the one they all seek. The power flows through you. Your mother, she knew. Ella's heart dropped. Betrayal flooded through her veins as she glanced at her mother. Is it true? You knew all along? Yes, but I was trying to protect you, her mother cried, desperation coloring her words. As the truth circled like a predatory bird, Walter's voice broke the tension, low and simmering. You've played your part for too long, and now it's a path bathed in brightness. Now! Alex's voice sliced through the tension, but it was too late. The chamber rattled as an unseen force surged through, threatening to tear them apart. Caught between love and betrayal, past and future, Ella felt herself thrust into a decision like no other. What had she truly inherited? The world spun, and her pulse raced as she realized she wasn't just a pawn in their game. She was the queen. But a new, unforeseen danger loomed closer. Spent a lifetime untangling the threads of her family's past, and now, faced with the looming reality of her legacy, she felt more lost than ever. The cloaked woman smiled, an ancient knowing in her eyes. The urgency in Jamie's voice cut through the chaos. Ella, we have to move. They're coming for you. Walter stepped forward, rage boiling over. You can't trust them, Ella. The order is real, and they'll use you. No, you were the one hiding the truth from me. Ella shot back, pain flickering across her features. She turned to her mother, desperation seeping into her words. Is it true? Did you keep this from me? Her mother's eyes softened, filled with a sorrow that nearly broke Ella's heart. I did it to protect you, Ella. You don't even know the half of it. But the mystery had already spiraled out of control. Shadows flickered ominously, and Ella felt a surge of power coursing through her veins, awakening that dim ember of strength she had sensed all along. In a rare moment of clarity, she stepped toward the pulsating symbol, determination rising like a tidal wave. I am done being afraid, she shouted, voice firm and unyielding. And as she touched the glowing symbol, an explosion of light erupted, blinding everyone in the chamber. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Light and shadow intertwined like dancers in a chaotic ballet, sparks flying in every direction. Then silence fell. Ella stood in the center of the chamber, enveloped in a warm glow that washed over her like a comforting embrace. She could feel the shadows retreating, slipping away as if stung by the light she had activated. "Ella!" Jamie's voice shattered the stillness, his eyes wide with awe. "You did it! You awakened!" Uncertainty flickered in her mind, but underneath it lay a current of strength. It surged through her, igniting memories of her family's past, the strength she inherited, the darkness that sought to consume them. She glanced at Walter, whose face had gone pale. Fear etched deeply in the lines of his once confident demeanor. "You thought you could control me," she said softly, pity lacing her words. "But I am not just a pawn in your game." The darkness shifted, revealing the haunting figures behind the shadows. "You were never just a girl," the cloaked woman hissed, rage boiling beneath her calm surface. "You are the key to this world." Ella felt it. A connection, a past screaming out for recognition. No longer would she allow fear to bind her. "I choose my own destiny," she declared, voice bold and resolute. With her determination ignited, the air vibrated with energy. A pulse radiated from her, intertwined with the light that burst from the symbol. The darkness recoiled, the cloaked figures dissipating like smoke in the wind. "Run!" Jamie urged, grasping her hand as they surged forward, Walter's voice trailing behind them in jagged gasps. "Ella, no! You're making a mistake!" But Ella felt unfettered, the chains of fear shattered. As they bolted into the unknown, a sense of clarity dawned upon her, a sense of belonging, a newfound strength that promised to defend against whatever darkness pursued them. They burst into the open air, sunlight spilling over them like warm honey. The terror that had suffocated them inside evaporated in the glow of the day, leaving determination swirling in its wake. Ella turned to Jamie, the heat of anger slipping away, replaced with profound relief. "We'll figure everything out, together." "Yes," he replied, a grin spreading across his face. "You're not alone anymore. The shadows may have been relentless, and the burden of legacy may still linger. But Ella was free, ready to embrace her true self." The fear dulled, replaced with the promise of hope. As they disappeared into the sunlight, leaving the darkness behind, she glanced back one last time. The answers lay before her, and for the first time she felt ready to face whatever awaited. And as the screen faded to black, a final call rang out that pulsed with urgency. "You have to subscribe right now. Don't wait even one more second. Smash that like button right now to show your support." Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this thrilling ending. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to make your voice heard. Your engagement makes all the difference.